Hello and welcome back to Mental Health Toolkit with Annie, where I offer skills, tools, resources to build on those that you already have in order to better your mental health and in turn allow you to be kinder and more compassionate toward yourself and other people. Today we're going to learn the skill Wise Mind. It's another mindfulness skill, so if you watched any of my other videos before this one came out, we're adding to that toolkit of mindfulness skills. Wise Mind is a bit more complex, and so it's going to be a few more minutes today as you learn this skill. I'm going to apply a scenario to it and then give you a few tips about it at the end. So you want to have practiced mindfulness in a general sense, doing things like the square breathing, the simpler and shorter skills of square breathing, getting used to that, getting used to checking in with your senses and what's around you in your environment, getting used to paying attention to your thoughts, what's coming to mind, what feelings you have, where they show up in your body and other body sensations. You'll want to be doing that and practicing that a lot. And then we bring on a skill like Wise Mind. Remember, you're always with mindfulness, paying attention in the present moment, on purpose, non-judgmentally. Kathy Moonshine, who is a trainer for dialectical behavior therapy, a therapy model I use in my therapy work with people, exposed me to Wise Mind initially. You have a handout, so if you look in the comments below, I will give you the link to that handout. And what I would say, if possible, to pause my video, go to that link, and either print it out, or if you're on your computer, put it on both screens so that you can kind of follow along. The visual can be helpful. As you see, I have a visual aid here, and you can always refer to the handout a different time if you're not able to do that. If you're watching this on your phone, don't worry about doing that unless you would like to. But definitely use the handout long term as you practice this skill. So Wise Mind is about balancing your emotions and thoughts and getting those in tune with one another. You're going to do that around issues of interpersonal conflicts or challenges, when you need to make a difficult decision, like if you're going to change jobs, or you're going to move to a different town or city, or you're trying to choose what college or maybe program you want to do for a degree. It's really helpful in those kinds of decision making. You also want to use it with things you may face with just in yourself emotionally, like depression or anxiety, loneliness or confusion, issues around shame, or when you're engaged in a lot of self-blame or blaming others. So let's walk through this skill. As you see, we have the Venn diagram here. And with Wise Mind, we're looking at our rational or logical or left brain, and how I remember our left brain is left for logical. And then our right brain, which is our emotional brain, our brain that's okay with a bit more chaos, with creativity, with things that don't line up perfectly, things that exist in our bodies, like body sensation experiences, typically exist in our right brain initially. Then our left brain helps make sense of those things, so we need both. When our right brain, our emotional brain, is running the show, we're perceiving and reacting to situations primarily based on our feelings and our body experience. With our left brain, or our logical or reasonable or rational brain, we're running the show when we're focused more on our logical or intellectual aspects of our experience. And we often shut off our emotions and feelings in this brain if we don't bring this side online. So with just the logic, we shut those out, and the risk of that is not caring about the feelings of the other person that might be involved in using this, and not expressing our emotions fully. So I'm going to pull out my notes here to run you through a scenario. So the scenario I chose is that, let's say you're living with somebody and you feel like they're not pulling their weight around the apartment or house with chores, and you're getting really frustrated about this. This is a scenario we've all run into at some point in our lives, whether it was growing up and being in a family and maybe being frustrated with family members for not pulling their weight, or maybe parents frustrated with you for not pulling your weight. You may have had a roommate maybe you live with your spouse or long-term partner. You may have children. So even if you live alone now, you probably could call to mind times you've lived with somebody else and have had to navigate the pulling your weight and doing the chores in the house. So most of us have a stronger side. You may say you're pretty even with both, but most of us either are a little bit more emotional, even if it's 60% of us, than logical, maybe 40%. Some may be more logical. You may be 80% logical and more the rest emotional mind. But kind of pay attention to what shows up for you when you think through scenarios. So we're going to call this roommate of ours Jane. And this is a made-up name. I don't even know somebody named Jane in my life. So first we're going to start with our logical side. I, to share a little bit about myself, tend to be more emotional. But I challenge myself doing this to start with the logical side. So let's say we're looking at the logic and we're looking at the facts. We're looking at what truly is in front of our face. What is going on? What's playing out that's making us so frustrated? So maybe we come up with a couple things. Jane leaves her clothes. And we want to be more specific. So when have we noticed her leaving her clothes out? Where are they? How often does this happen? So let's say we noticed for 1 week her clothes were in the bathroom. And we share a bathroom and she leaves them right in front of the sink, right in front of the shower, and we can't get in. Okay? So there's one example of a logical statement. This is true. This is what's happening. You've observed it for a week. Maybe Jane didn't do dishes for 2 weeks straight. And because you were getting so frustrated, you thought you might observe. Maybe you knew about wise mind, and you thought for a couple weeks, I'm just going to observe what happens. And you saw she didn't do her dishes for 2 weeks. That's some pretty good material to pay attention to. Now let's go to our emotional mind. We might be feeling angry. Thinking about our body, we might notice that our stomach is upset. Maybe our head hurts more. We're having headaches because of this. You may have the impulse, so emotional mind is our impulsive selves, that you want to throw her clothes out the front door because you're so angry with her. Maybe you even notice yourself thinking, Jane doesn't care at all about me or our friendship or living together. And then with wise mind, you want to bring these two together. And you want to add things like your values. You really do care about Jane. When you started living together initially, you felt really connected. You thought it would be a really good setup. You want to think about, what's the goal here? I don't really want to throw her clothes out the front door, but I do want her to be better about being aware of the messes that she leaves, right? So the goal is that she's a bit more aware of what's going on for you. And you might say something, you might decide, okay, I'm going to confront her on this using my wise mind, caring about the relationship and taking ownership. So something I came up with is, hey Jane, I care about our relationship and I have something kind of hard that I want to talk to you about. I am noticing that I'm feeling really angry and also confused because for a few weeks now I've kind of taken inventory of some things I've been frustrated about for months and noticed that you leave your clothes and you're not really doing your dishes very often. It's taking weeks for that to happen. I'd like you to do your dishes twice a week, and I'd like you to either put your clothes in the hamper or in your bedroom. Will you do that? So that's a wise mind response. You're letting her in on your emotional side, the logical side, and your goal for this to work out. So finally, some things to keep in mind with this skill. First of all, take your time with this. It's a baby steps kind of skill. Use small scenarios initially. You may not use this bigger one. You might use, you're annoyed with a coworker because they keep forgetting to turn off the coffee pot at the end of the day, and then you show up to work and it smells like burnt coffee. Use the worksheet initially. Invite a safe or trusted person to help you through this. Do not do it alone. I want to emphasize that. Practice this with an old situation, so something that you're gone and done with. Practice it with something from the past. And then, like I said, use it with smaller scenarios. If you struggle with emotional health issues, please bring somebody else on board with you to work through this type of skill. As always, as you're practicing and learning new skills, remember to be kind to yourself.